This is a quick video on my radio mic rack. This was a fairly recent project, probably the last one that I did. So as you can see, I've got a rack of 8 radio mics here. I've gone for Thoman's own brand again, mainly because I didn't have the budget to stretch for Sennheisers or Shores or any of the other big names. So I stuck with what I know and went for the Thoman's t.bone mics. Say what you like about them. Yes, I know they are not the best mics in the world, but for the money, you are getting really good quality mics, and I have the experience of using both Sennheisers, JTSs, and now the T-bones, and I can honestly say I would actually prefer the T-bones over the JTS or anything. Obviously, they're not going to be as good as Sennheisers, so if I'm offered the Sennheisers to use, I'll go for them. But for the money that I paid for this rack, I've got some really good quality mics. So as you can see in the rack, I've got a 2U Rackmount battery charger. I've got 2 antenna distributions because annoyingly Thomann doesn't have an 8-way antenna distribution, but it actually has worked in my favour. I could have gone for the RF venues distributor, which would have got all of them on there, but it was so much more expensive. I think I could have bought 3 of these distributions with the shark fin antennas for the price of the RF venues. So yeah, what I've got here is the 600 megahertz range from Thomann. You need to be very careful if you're looking to buy Thomann's own brand of mics, because there are a lot of mics in those on that website that are frequencies that either are not legal in the UK or require an expensive license. So my recommendation is, if you're going to buy radio mics from Thomann, make sure they're the 600 megahertz one, because they will be on the shared band for channel 38, and it's under 200 quid for 2 years for the license for these. So you are pretty much going to get the cheapest license out of them, and the only thing that can be on that radio range is a radio mics or IEMs. There is nothing else that is using that range, so you are pretty much guaranteed to get decent signal unless there's someone with the same kit or other radio mics in the same place. But the actual spectrum is so wide that you can actually fit quite a lot of radio mics in, so you could just change frequency. So yeah, here I've got 8 of the radio mic receivers. They don't have a lot of bells and whistles, but they are very good quality mics, as I said. The one thing they did have, which surprised me, is they do have infrared syncing, which I didn't expect to see. So what I'll do is I'll power up one of the receivers so you can see. So here is my mic 1 receiver. All you can really do on the receiver head itself is set the frequency. There's not a lot else that you can do. They do have built-in user groups and channels. I didn't use those. I just set the frequencies myself, just because I didn't see much point in trying to figure out exactly what frequency it wanted to use. So I just inputted the frequencies manually. They do have an auto scan mode, however, it will pick up it will try and use anything from something like 590 megahertz. So you need to be careful with what it chooses to use to make sure that it's covered by your license. The one thing that did surprise me with the antenna distributions is this power switch doesn't actually stop power being provided to the receivers. It's kind of weird. So the power seems to be just passed through, and the switch on the front is just for the actual antenna distribution and not for the power going to the mic receivers. So you do still have to power up all of the receivers individually. However, if you do pull the power on the rack and reapply it, all of the receivers that were last turned on will come back on. So for instance, if I pull the plug out of this rack, you can see the whole lot is now powered down, and when I plug it back in, all of the receivers that were last turned on come back up. So I'll just show you that again. If I shut down receiver 5, and unplug the whole rack. The whole lot's gone off, but now when I plug it back in, you can see that mic 5 has not come back on. So that's really useful for me, because sometimes I will just be using the top 4 receivers. So I know that when I go into my show and I fire up the power to the rack, only the receivers I were last using will come back on. So yeah, that's the receivers. The antennas I've got here are just the omnidirectional ones that come with the receivers. I do have the shark fin antennas for these. However, if I'm just putting this rack on the side of the stage, then these antennas will be absolutely fine. So yeah, Thomann does make pre-built racks with their mics in. I couldn't find one that was the 600 megahertz. I found one that was the 650 megahertz, but I really knew that I needed the 600 megahertz one, so I opted to build the rack myself. I bought all the components individually, and that's how I actually ended up with being able to put the rack mount receiver in. So normally Thomann's pre-built ones, they have double receivers, so they only need one antenna distribution, so the whole thing fits in a 5U case, whereas I've gone with I think this one's a 7U, so yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8U, sorry. This is an 8U rack, so I was able to kit it out exactly how I wanted to. The rack mount battery charger is really cool. It's something that I didn't know existed at the time, and I used that charger with Thomann's own, I think they're nickel something. I don't really understand battery chemistries, but the batteries themselves are like £1 each for rechargeable batteries, and they last at least 8 hours. So I get a really decent run out of those on each charge. So yeah, that is the receiver rack. The only thing I was really disappointed with in this rack was the quality of the double rack mount kits. So these receivers are slightly less than half of 19-inch. So you do need the double rack mount kits, which are only like £4 each. But the actual way that they are mounted is really horrible in my opinion. So the outsides of them is absolutely fine, but the inside, the way they couple two receivers together is like, well, I'll try and zoom in so you can see. You attach 2 plates on each side, and then you screw the 2 plates in from the top and the bottom, and there's just a lot of wiggle room. You can sort of see here how I'm struggling to get the receivers to line up. The top 2 I didn't do a bad job on, but it's really hard to get these lined up properly. So yeah, the only thing I was really disappointed with was the rack mounting kits for the receivers. The back of the rack is completely open, so all of the receivers plug in to their distributors to get power in both aerial A and B, and then I've got a 8-way snake and an extension lead coming out the back. So plugged in at the back is basically power for both of the distributors, which then in turn power 4 receivers each, and then the battery charger at the top. So that is the receiver rack. So here is one of the mics that I use with my receiver rack. So this is one of the handhelds. Again, 600 megahertz, so it's the shared band unit. I was really surprised about how well built these are and how premium they actually feel, considering that this mic costs less than £100 and it feels really, really good. It's got a decent weight to it. Single LCD display, as you can see here, that just shows the frequency. Single button operation for end users, so you can literally push it once and it will mute it, push it again to unmute, and then hold down to turn the power off and hold down to turn the power on. And yeah, that's the mic itself. I was expecting a lower end mic to sound quite tinny and quite high pitched. However, this has a really warm sound to it. I found that I just had to put a little bit of EQ on the higher end, and it sounded really good. It did just need that little bit of help on the high end, and yeah, it worked. It works beautifully ever since. The actual mic itself, I'm just going to open up for you. You can see here, takes 2 AA's. Here's some of the rechargeables that I use. One slides past the holder there, and one is visible there. I would say the battery compartment is a little bit tough to use at first. However, once you've put batteries in, taken them out a couple of times, it has become a lot easier. I would say make sure that the mics are off before you take the batteries out, because there is a very loud popping sound that that you will hear if you take the batteries out while the mic is on. There is an IR receiver which I only found about 10 minutes ago. I've been setting the frequencies using those set and select buttons. But yeah, now I found the IR receiver. That's made life a lot easier. The actual mics themselves, you've got a gain control on the actual mic head itself, and set the frequency. Other than that, that's it. You leave them alone, really. And here is one of the body packs that I got as well. I've got 8 of these, only 4 in this case though. Again, 600 megahertz band. They are pretty much your bog standard body pack. Battery compartment in there with the IR receiver and your setting buttons. Exactly the same display as the handhelds, and you've got exactly the same situation with the mute and the on-off button. So you press once for mute and unmute, and then hold for turning them off and turning them on again. I would say it is quite easy to push this button, so it might be worth putting a bit of tape over them when you're using them on a theatrical show, because it is quite easy to mute them. I was blown away with the build quality of the handhelds. These don't have the greatest build quality. They are very plasticky and very light. I don't know what they sound like yet, but I'm hoping that they sound as good as the handhelds. So that's the body pack. With each one you do get a mini XLR to jack cable, so you can plug an instrument in. And these are the headsets that I went for. So these are D-type pickup patterns rather than omnidirectional, so they actually sit quite nicely by the mouth, so you do pick up a direct sound rather than all the sound that's around you. They are quite malleable, so you can shape them to fit your actor as well. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to use these yet, so I can't really talk too much about the audio quality. But I'm hoping that they are as good as the handhelds. And the cabling just sits in there in this case that I've built, where I've well, I haven't built, I've configured to hold the mics. Each one comes with a clip and a pop filter as well, although they will just probably get lost in the first 10 minutes. So yeah, that's my radio mics. Last thing to show you is the shark fin antennas. I've got 4 of these because they each distributor needs 2. So here is one of the shark fins. They have got a little bit of weight to them. They're not too heavy. Again, being T-bone, it's that plasticky feel rather than a metal feel, unfortunately. And they are quite unsubtle about the fact that they're T-bone. Again, if that's not a problem to you, then that's absolutely fine. I just wish that the logo was a bit smaller to make them a little bit less standy outy. You also have a switch to put some gain on the aerial as well, and you've got your BNC input. These just fit onto a standard mic attachment. I've got these Gravity clips on there so that I can just attach them to either some rake seating or a shelf or something that you can just attach them to keep them out the way. They also come with your bog standard BNC cables, nothing too magical about those. But yeah, that is my T-bone mic setup. I was really quite anxious to make this video because there is very little on YouTube for these mics that isn't in German anyway. So yeah, I'm hoping that this video is helpful to any English speaking people out there. Thanks for watching.